did you feel pressured that day to do it? Did you feel an outside pressure that if you said no, there would be a problem?
Yeah, like I said, I think that was probably for the first sort of 8 or 9, 10 years of my presentation. That was probably the bit I always used. Yeah, the pressure on me. I've been made redundant. My father-in-law giving me a job. There's a lot of pressure for me speaking or getting the job done. And I think they all played a part. Without a doubt, they was all key for me making that decision. But fundamentally, I believe my well-being was an overriding factor. And again, going back 30 years, we didn't really speak up about mental health back then. It wasn't really talked about. But the saddest thing about my accident was, when did people speak up or start talking about my problems after my accident? That's when the other workers then start coming forward. I think he's struggling with his marriage. I think he's drinking too much. He's had days off work. Some days he's not present on site. He's here, but he's not really doing his job. Nobody spoke about that till the day after my accident.
Right, so it's too late.
It's too late. So again, that's why I hate the word passionate, because I think it gets used so much. I go and say I'm really passionate about this, but I am, because it's like my awakening. Right. What do I need to highlight this as much as I possibly can. But now we've got the substance behind it, where obviously working with Tim, we've got the authority behind it, say to companies, this is what you need to do. I think right. Can we ever say when I focus on safety? Of course we can't. It's such a big statement, but I can remember the first meeting with Tim all those years ago when he said we've done safety, and I was thinking, I was like taken aback by his statement. I don't understand what you mean, Tim. He said, look, let's create a good culture to come to work. Let's give the guys the right training. Let's give the guys good pay. Let's give the guys these things. He says, and if we can do all these things and create the right culture as a byproduct of it, and especially look at people's well-being, how they come to work, how they leave work. I don't think it's acceptable anymore for a company to say, we must provide all this health and safety so people go home in the same way they arrived. I don't think that's enough anymore. We need to create an environment where people come to work, probably with problems from home, but they have a really, really good day at work, where they feel valued, where they feel part of the team, and they could actually go home better than they arrived. And I think for me, that is the bar we need to be raising to. Create the right culture where that, because I still go into a lot of companies and you just sense the culture is not right.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do we go about convincing companies that we need to ensure that employees exit the door better than the way they entered it? Or is that an answer that you can't really give because it's?
I'll give my answer, because fundamentally, I think companies need to make money. Companies exist by making money. Or we have to get the jobs done, so we put pressure on the guys to get the job done because we need a job doing. Let's look at this from a different aspect. I talk about the well-being on the presentations, and I have a little slide now, a little dig at some of the people like doing that, and confrontational. I always have some pictures of a load of managers rubbing their hands like that, saying, "Oh, all this well-being sounds absolutely fantastic, but how much is it going to cost us?" Because it always comes down to cost. And again, using the study done by Deloitte in 2020, they suggest that every £1 you invest in good mental health, the returns are about £5 in better productivity, quality, less absenteeism, less presenteeism. So if every £1 you actually invest in mental health, you get £5 back. So what's the cost of not doing it? £46 billion a year. Right. So where the figures are, but obviously the cost is one, but surely having a happy workforce who are contented, coming to work in a really, really good way, is going to be more beneficial for you, for profit and for safety. Yep. For me, it goes hand in hand, and it's one of those things where these things that things that you know, so people know about safety and know why we should do it, and then these things that you don't know, like people fly planes but you don't know how to do it, and there's this vast area where you don't know what you don't know.
The unknown.
The unknown, and I think that's probably where we're sitting as a company with me and Tim, because people don't actually realise the importance of well-being into safety. Is it health and safety, or is it well-being, health and safety? And I think until we take this holistic approach to it all, we're always going to get what we've always got. you know, and you're probably aware of Toby. You see another campaign done with a jazzy logo and some extra buzzwords around it. But fundamentally, it's exactly the same what we've always been doing. There's nothing different in there. It's just different terminology, different way of looking at it. But fundamentally, it's exactly the same as what we've always done. And for me, if we've always done it in a certain way, we're always going to get the same results. We've got to do something different. And for me, for somebody who is struggling, and again, without going too much into things that happened, but we was presented only 2 weeks ago, and obviously we talked about the mental health. And the guy came up to us, I'd say mid-50s. He showed us his arms, his cuts on his arms, where he'd been self-harming. And he actually said to us, well, 1 year ago, I've really struggled with mental health, really, really badly. He said, and 1 year ago, I actually came to work with the intention of hanging himself off one of the cranes. And I was and he said, well, what you've actually said to me today is for the first time I've realised I need to share my story of what I did. And said, yeah, and unfortunately we couldn't stay till the end of the presentation, but we went back the next day, and the manager said, you won't believe what happened yesterday after your presentation. He said, not only has he come speaking to you, and I saw him speaking to you, he said, at the end of the session, he just stood up in front of his peers and shared his story.
Wow.
Said, absolutely, wow. Yeah, I still have goosebumps talking about it, because it was, for me, if by me sharing my story, if I'd achieved for that guy then to share his story with somebody else, that's fantastic. And that's normalizing that conversation. You know, just I would imagine that other people then would open up about how they was feeling. What positives can companies take from that? Well, for the first time, they said, yeah, we probably need to give this guy a little bit more support. We didn't know this. So straight away, that guy's been at work since he's not had a day off. He's come to work every day in that mindset. So right. What was he given at work? You know, how much extra effort was he given for the company? He was probably coming to work doing just enough for his wage every week because he was in such a bad place. So that's where we need to be. And companies have to recognise that getting guys to work on extra shifts on weekends because the project's behind. And I understand all these things with deadlines, I do, but to take a step back from it sometimes and just have a stand down and go, where is everybody today? And if you find out most of your staff are at number 5 on the effort scale, chucking extra hours at these guys, so not only have you ruined the week, you now get them on a Saturday, and on the Saturday, they're supposed to take their son to the football. So you might be paying them an extra £200 to go on a Saturday, but that's caused loads of problems for this guy in his home life. So now he's ruined his Saturday with his son, he's probably fought with his partner, and he's back at work on a Monday morning with a load of anger issues around his weekend being ruined. But again, it falls into this area where companies don't know all this is going off. All they know is the guy's been to work, we've not had an accident. Aren't we fantastic? What a great place to work. But the workforce are saying, well, no, it doesn't feel like that to us. Because we're coming to this work, we're getting pushed here, we're getting pushed there. And then the guys on the stage, and we get a free breakfast because we've done very well this year, or a token.
You're very, very right. And I think what you do starts that conversation off. And like this is why we had to have you on, Jason, because I think, like I said, what you do starts off that conversation. It makes the invisible visible. And as long as you can keep doing that, I think you're so important to that cause.